Good morning and welcome to Easy Rightsizing on KFOR. I am in awe of seniors. My grandfather served in World War I and saw World War II, wow. Plus Korea and Vietnam. He saw electricity replace gas lights, automobiles and tractors replace horses, and eventually he watched a man land on the moon. They didn't have a lot of stuff, and they tend not to want to get rid of the stuff they have, including tinfoil and paper bags and things like that were precious to them when there wasn't much else to own. Janine Bryant of Changing Spaces SRS is here for Easy Rightsizing. Good morning, Janine.
Good morning, Dale.
You never met my grandfather, but you have met people that fit that mold. Each week you meet people just like him, though, and those are the people who grow in age. They don't grow old, they grow in age, and they just seem to get better with age.
Yes, my own grandparents, I remember my grandmother, she would save Ziploc bags. She'd wash them out, and then she'd put them in the dish drainer and let them dry. And I remember my mom used to get so frustrated with her. She'd say, "Mom, you don't need to keep those," but that's still vivid in my memory. Yeah, you know, I'm privileged to meet so many seniors. I do the free in-home consultations at Changing Spaces SRS. So anytime anyone is interested in our services or they're going through a transition, they give us a call and I go and visit with them. And it's my favorite part of the job. I am in the home of probably between 8 and 10 seniors every week. And it is such a blessing because the majority of the people that I meet with are in their probably mostly in their 80s, sometimes in their 70s, sometimes in their 90s, but they are people who have lived several decades on this earth. And I'm just a young whippersnapper. I'm 38 years old, and so my birthday's coming up in a couple days. I'll be 39. And it's been such a privilege to really learn so much, to see sort of what their last chapter looks like and to be inspired, because so many times I leave a client's house and I think, gosh, that's the kind of old person I want to be. You know, when I'm 85 years old, I hope that I'm in their situation. And it's so interesting to me because when you see the end of someone's life, all of their life choices it's very easy to see the result of their life choices. So how they've managed their money, how they've managed their family relationships, how they've even managed their own health. I mean, boy, it is very apparent to me, those seniors who have taken the time to exercise and eat well throughout their lives, they are still vibrant, older people, even in their last chapters. The ways they have stayed connected to their community, I think that's something that seniors do a lot better than younger people do nowadays. They were very connected to their community, and they continue to remain so. And even the way they manage their stuff. And this last week, I visited with two groups, two couples that are approaching a move. And I was so inspired by both of them for a number of reasons. One couple was actually from Columbus, Nebraska, and they're going to be moving down here to Lincoln. And so I don't do a lot of out-of-town consultations, but I drove up there. It was a beautiful fall day. It was a great day for a drive. And I visited with them. We took a tour. They had already downsized once, so they were living in a townhome in Columbus. And so the big move was already done. They'd done that a few years ago. But now they were going to be downsizing again. They're moving into one of the retirement communities here in Lincoln. And at the end of our time together, you know, I asked them, I said, so it sounds like you guys are really looking forward to the move, or you're ready to let go of some things and go into this next chapter. And the man said to me, he shook his head and he said, no, bottom line, we really don't want to be doing this, but we know it's the right thing to do. And I thought, gosh, what a wise person and what a great attitude to have as you're going into this next chapter of your life. And his adult daughter was there. I think they had 2 adult daughters, and they both live in Omaha. Well, moving from Columbus to Omaha seemed like, you know, a pretty big step. So they decided Columbus to Lincoln would be better. And they have a lot of friends in Lincoln. And I said to the daughter, I said, boy, you are lucky that your parents have such a great view of this final chapter. I said, sometimes, it doesn't happen very often with our clients, but I know from experience, even in my own family, sometimes when adult children have to make their parents move, they go kind of kicking and screaming. And the dad, the older man, he just shook his head and he said, nah, we're not those kind of people. And I thought, oh, I just love it. No drama, very practical. Everyone is supporting one another, and they're moving through this transition with grace and ease. And I thought, that's the kind of person that I want to be.
Really, stubbornness at any age.
Right. And fighting.
Is blocking.
Yes, and fighting against any kind of change. I mean, we can all learn from that, especially in the year 2020. I mean, change happens, and transitions are inevitable. That's in our mission statement at Changing Spaces, because we know that throughout our lives, all kinds of transitions are going to happen, and we can't control that change. And the best we can do is move through those transitions with ease and grace. I visited a second couple this very same week who had raised their family in one of these big, ginormous, beautiful homes here in Lincoln. It's another reason why I love my job is that I get invited into these places. So I wouldn't usually be, going to dinner parties with these folks, but they invited me in because they've lived in this very large home. They raised their sons there. I think they'd been there for 40 some years. And now it's time to downsize and move to a beautiful retirement community here in Lincoln. And they are both still very physically able. They don't have to move, but they are making the choice to move. They want to move. And what they said to me, again, at the end of the appointment, that's lots of times when these golden nuggets come out. After I've gotten to know them, I take the tour of the house. They said to me, well, we just didn't want our boys to have to deal with this after we're gone. And so they know that eventually we all need to empty out a house for one reason or another, right? And that none of us are getting out of here alive. And so they know, sometime within the next 10 years, we're not going to be here anymore, and someone's going to have to deal with our stuff. We want it to be us rather than putting that burden on our boys. And what a gift that is. I always say that going through the right-sizing process is a gift you give to yourself, to your children, and to your spouse, because at some point, someone's going to have to deal with that stuff. So if you can do it yourself, it's such a blessing.
Now, once they've made that mental transition, that makes your job easier too, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yes. And they had been working. Actually, I went in and I visited with them, and I saw a copy of my book, Ready to Right Size, on the table. And that darn book is going to put me out of business because it's such a good book. The advice in it is so great, and that they had read it and they had been downsizing. They've been working at this for several months. And so even though it was a big house, a lot of the closets and a lot of the cupboards were empty, which is so great. And so it's actually not going to be a very big job for us. It's going to be a pretty easy pack and move for us, and because of all the work that they've done.
No 8 bookcases going into space for 3 bookcases.
That's right. Yes, that's right.
They know what they can and cannot fit.
That's right. And, here again, they are moving into some of these retirement communities. If folks listening out there, if you haven't been to any of these retirement communities, and if you're even thinking just a little bit of moving, go on a tour, because I think a lot of us would be surprised at just how big a lot of them are. Even the assisted livings, I've been doing this for 10 years, and even in the last 10 years, I've seen a real change in the size of assisted living facilities, and that's a facility where you do get a little more assistance, day-to-day assistance in your living, and those apartments used to be a lot smaller. And now the trend is that they're bigger, and even those assisted living apartments have walk-in closets and, quite frankly, probably more storage than they should have, because it's allowing people to hold on to even more than they really need. But a lot of these retirement communities have beautiful options that do allow you to keep quite a bit of your items with you. So that's a positive thing, certainly. It makes the downsizing process a lot less scary for folks.
And check them out for a number of reasons, not only for spatial, but for the amenities that are there. There are gyms. So if you do happen to have your exercise or your treadmill that you're using, you don't need to take it along.
There's
one already there. There's a facility there.
A lot of them have libraries. A lot of them have dens where you can put together, puzzles. If you're a puzzler, you don't necessarily have to take your own table along to put together a puzzle. You don't have to take all of your books along because there's a library there. So, and a lot of them even have private dining rooms. And so that's a conversation that I had with this couple in their big, beautiful home. They, of course, had a large, beautiful dining room. and a dining room table. And they're not going to bring it with them because A, it probably wouldn't be a good use of space in their new apartment. And B, they realize that if they do want to have large family gatherings, a lot of these retirement communities have private dining rooms where you can have everyone over for an anniversary dinner or a birthday. And better yet, the cook at the facility will cater it for you. And so you don't have to do any of the work. They also talked about, maybe it's time to pass on that tradition of celebrating holidays to the kids. Maybe it's time, even though it's hard, it broke my heart in a good way, because they said that one of their adult sons came into the house the other day and he just started crying as soon as he came in the front door. And he said, "Mom and Dad, this was such a happy place to grow up." And I thought, there's another example of being inspired by our clients. I said to them, I hope my kids can say that someday about me. I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old, but what a great testament that a 40-something-year-old man is brought to tears at the thought of his parents moving out of a beloved family home. And that happens a lot with our clients, and I try to reassure them that that's actually a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It means that this was a happy home. And what better thing can you ask for?
All right, how can someone else get your book and have it on the table?
That's right. Put me out of business, folks.
When you
That's
show
right.
up.
So if you go to Amazon.com, my book is right there. It's called Ready to Right Size. It can be delivered right to your door. And it's a quick read because this is not about putting off this process any longer, okay? You can read this book in 60 to 90 minutes. And then it's part information, part inspiration, and part kick in the pants to get going. And it will give you the tools and motivation to start your right-sizing journey on your own. So go ahead and go to Amazon.com and search for Ready to Right Size.
Facebook, Instagram, a couple of sources. You can also go to changingspacessrs.com, and while you are there, click on online auctions, estate sales.
Yep.
This is the time of year when you're busy in booking and busy in carrying those out.
That's right. Every week we've got an online auction and an in-person estate sale going on. So absolutely, this show is all about letting go of your stuff. But if you're still like the thrill of the hunt, the treasure hunting, you can check those out. And then if you want to get going on your right-sizing journey, EasyRightsizing.com is my website where I give lots of free tips and information about how to get started on that process.
And join us every Sunday morning right here on Easy Right Sizing.